Well, that's pretty. Hi guys, Manny from Ride Off Rescue here. We got a new car for you today. This one, we're sort of halfway through the build process. We didn't film the rest of the car because it was basically before we started doing filming for the channel that we'd already started doing a lot of work on this car. But look, it's a fairly straightforward repair. I'll pop up now the auction photos showing what the damage was. So the damage was basically a scrape down the passenger's side. So you can see on the picture that the front guard is damaged, the wheel is on a bit of a skewed angle, obviously a little bit of suspension damage there, and also that both of the doors have had a little scrape along the edge. Now on first glance this looks like it's going to be a very, very straightforward repair, maybe a couple of door skins, maybe even just fix the doors and do a little bit of suspension work, new front guard, and happy days. But when I got the car, as usual, the photos didn't tell the whole story unless you looked really closely and you knew what you were looking for. So when we got the car, yes, the suspension was about the same. So what we ended up having to do was, it's a bit hard, the wheel's on here at the moment, but basically, see if I can get it in there. Not really. Basically we had the outer tie rod and the lower control arm that was damaged. So once we replaced those two things, we were good to go. The wheel's all straight. Obviously the rim is looking pretty sad. It's had a nice big scrape up here, but we've got a new one from Mercedes. They weren't that expensive, so it was just worth buying a new one rather than trying to get this one refurbed. The other three wheels on the car were perfectly fine. Now, one thing you couldn't see on the auction photos was, if you look very closely, this light here doesn't quite line up properly. So it's got a small little ding here, and it's kind of pushed in just a little bit there. Unfortunately, the light's also got a small crack, and a little bit of a graze. I think we can probably just get away with that. We might just try and buff that out a little bit. But we will have to get a little bit of PDR done on this, paintless dent removal, just to pull it out a bit. It's not worth getting it all resprayed and getting a new guard, and that should just pull that back out so we can get this line here looking right again. It shouldn't be sunken in there under the light. And also you can see here it's kind of pushed out a bit. It should be in a bit more like that. So that's just a pretty minor part. So over to the doors. Now at the moment we've already got the new doors. We've got the new guard on, we've got the new doors on, and they're all painted. Basically we're ready to do some reassembly. Now what we did find was, when we got it, is that the doors just didn't line up properly with the top. So basically what it looked like was the A-pillar under here was slightly pushed in at the bottom because it had the scrape along the bottom edge, and also the B-pillar was sort of similar, where it was just pushed in just a little bit. So what I actually did, guys, was I was actually able to repair this one myself. I have a post in my garage, and what we were able to do was actually grab onto that lower hinge and just give it a little bit of a pull with a big solid ratchet strap, just to bring it out 5 millimeters or so is all it really needed. And then that was enough just to be able to then make some adjustments with the doors, because you've got a lot of adjustment in the hinge area up here and down here, and so you can undo the bolt here, sort of move it around and get the doors to sit right. So I was able to get it pulled out and then sitting right, because up here we need that to be nice and tight so it can be nice and waterproof for the car. Also obviously you need to make sure all your panel gaps are good. So you can see at the moment that gap looks really nice and that gap looks good too. It's a bit hard to 100% tell because we haven't got our rubbers on yet, but we'll soon do that and we will get it all put back together. We obviously need to do a few more screws here, put the wing mirror back on and all that kind of stuff, but that's today's job. We're going to get into it. I'll give you a quick tour of the car. So other than that, the car looks good. It's a 2019. Mercedes B180. It's a bit of an unloved model really, the B-class Mercedes, but they are nice looking little car. It's not too bad. It's a good little family car. It's got plenty of space. Reasonable amount of space for a few people. It's got a decent boot. The system in here is quite nice. It's got the full twin screens like the old E-Class. Sorry, it's a bit dark, guys. But yeah, I mean, it's only done not many kilometers, less than 10,000 kilometers. So it's pretty much like a brand new car. So once we get these doors all sorted and back together, should be like new again. Alright guys, I think we will jump into a bit of a time lapse and we will get these doors back together and we'll go from there. Okay guys, first thing we're going to do is we're going to strip down the door. Basically we've got to take off all the fixings. This is obviously the old door, this is the rear door that was on the car. So we basically got to take everything out, including all these rubbers and trims and everything like that, transfer them over to the new one. So let's get into it. Alright, as you can see, we've finished up with the back door now, so she's looking pretty good, back to normal. Panel gap's not bad. Really, I'd like this to be in a little bit further into the roof line here. So we might just adjust the hinges a little bit later, but before we do that, I want to get the front door all done and just check for the gaps and how it's all lining up. But otherwise, it looks pretty good. There's a slight height difference here as well, but I think if we can tip the top of this door in just a little bit, then we should be good. That'll get rid of that and it'll bring that back in a little bit, so we'll do that a bit later. So we've still got the front door to go and we've got to finish putting on this guard because at the moment it's only held on by about 1 or 2 bolts. So I think we might get the guard done first and then we'll get into doing the other front door. Alright, so we got the fender back on now. All the panel gaps are good. It is a little bit wider here than when it comes down to here, but checking the other side it looks exactly the same, so I'm guessing that's how it's supposed to be. This all lined up pretty good there. Top edge lines up, bottom edge doesn't, but again it's the same as the other side. So it's obviously, for some reason, Mercedes has made the guard a little bit slightly different to the bumper. Anyway, here looks good. Got the wheel liner in as you saw, and we just got to get this alloy wheel replaced with a new one when we get a chance. So moving on, we've still got the side skirt here, needs to go back on. Then we've got the front door to do. Then we just got to plug in, clear all the codes, because since the doors have been unplugged, it's throwing a few codes for, you know, side sensors and all that kind of stuff, because it doesn't know where things are. Obviously the mirror's off, and the mirror's got all the sensors and things for the blind assistance and all that kind of stuff. So let's get into it. Alright guys, time to start doing the front door, and then we're going to be very close to finished. Let's do it.
Invincible.
Well guys, that about wraps us up for today's video. Thanks for joining me. If you like what you saw, please consider subscribing and give us a like. It really helps us out. And I'll talk to you next time.